So what if a single, completely impossible defection completely rewrote the Wizarding War? Today, we are diving into an explainer that shakes the very foundations of history. Welcome to a fascinating Ghibli-inspired alternate universe, where we are looking at a what-if scenario so shocking, it literally alters the course of an entire magical war and changes the fate of the Wizarding world forever.
It poses a question that seems, honestly, impossible. What if the most loyal servant of Voldemort suddenly turned against him? And look, I'm not talking about Draco Malfoy, whose heart was never truly in it. I'm not talking about Severus Snape, whose loyalties were always this incredibly complex web. And I'm not even talking about Lucius Malfoy. I am talking about Bellatrix Lestrange, the witch who tortured for him, killed for him, and would have gladly died for him. The absolute fanatic.
Okay, let's dive into this. In the original timeline, as we know, Bellatrix didn't just follow the Dark Lord. She basically worshipped him as almost a god. But in this alternate universe, a massive shift happens. After Voldemort takes control of the Ministry, she starts noticing that the pure blood revolution she so fervently believed in is being completely pushed aside. Instead, every single campaign, every resource is becoming myopically focused on a personal vendetta against a single teenage boy. To a true believer like Bellatrix, this obsession makes absolutely no sense.
So, what's the breaking point? The true catalyst for her defection actually happens right inside her own Gringotts vault. Now, in canon, Bellatrix unknowingly protects one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, completely unaware of its true dark nature. But here, she discovers exactly what he has done, the horrifying act of splitting and mutilating one's own soul, not just once, but multiple times. For Bellatrix, who views magic almost religiously, this revelation is an absolute abomination. Even among dark wizards, tearing apart one's soul is considered literally one of the most terrible acts imaginable.
She suffers a complete psychological break, forced to ask herself this really heavy question. What if all of it was never about creating a better world? What if it was only about keeping one broken man alive forever? Suddenly, the cracks begin to spread. The man she worshipped isn't this dark savior aiming to elevate wizardkind. He's a monster who willingly destroyed his own humanity out of sheer selfishness. And once that seed of doubt enters her mind, it becomes utterly impossible to remove. She really starts questioning the endless deaths, the torture, and the immense sacrifices Voldemort constantly demands.
The thing is, Voldemort is exceptionally skilled at reading people, right? So he immediately notices her hesitation. The very same paranoia that makes him distrust absolutely everyone else, Lucius Snape, his entire inner circle, now turns its ugly head directly toward Bellatrix. The tension just rapidly escalates. Every conversation they have becomes a deadly test. Every single glance becomes suspicious. And for the first time in decades, Bellatrix Lestrange experiences a very specific, chilling emotion: fear. Not fear of the Order, mind you, but fear of Voldemort himself, realizing he would kill her without a second thought if he deemed her a threat.
Now, this treason doesn't just happen overnight, it's more like a logical avalanche. Let's walk through it. Weeks before, she notes his irrational obsession with Harry. Days later, she uncovers the horrifying truth about the Horcruxes. And the very next night, she makes the fateful choice to secretly approach her sister, Narcissa Malfoy. Narcissa has always cared infinitely more about family than ideology, which makes her the absolute perfect ally here. Together, they forge a secret alliance right under the Dark Lord's nose.
Systematically, the sisters begin to dismantle Voldemort's operation. It starts small at first, just leaking Death Eater movements and hidden safe houses. Then it escalates to revealing high-level Ministry plans. But the true fatal blow comes when Bellatrix reveals the existence of the Gringotts Horcrux to the Resistance. I mean, think about how massive this is. Instead of a grueling, incredibly time-consuming hunt, one of Voldemort's most protected secrets is handed to the Resistance on a silver platter. The hunt accelerates dramatically, and Horcruxes are destroyed far, far sooner.
1. That is the exact number of followers Voldemort genuinely believed would never, ever abandon him. But Bellatrix's betrayal doesn't stay hidden forever, and when he finally learns the truth, his reaction is absolutely catastrophic. It's not just about losing a powerful soldier, it's about losing the one constant in his incredibly isolated existence. Her betrayal confirms his absolute deepest fear, that loyalty doesn't really exist, that trust is impossible, and that eventually every single person will turn against him.
And because of that realization, his ranks just completely implode. His inner circle collapses under the sheer weight of his violent paranoia. Death Eaters begin turning on one another in a desperate bid to just survive. Accusations spread like wildfire, and executions of his own followers become a totally common occurrence. Bellatrix's betrayal effectively causes infinitely more damage from the inside out than an entire army of Aurors ever could.
What this really exposes is the ultimate fragility of fear-based loyalty. Bellatrix attacked the one and only thing Voldemort actually depends on. Fear is a powerful motivator, sure, but it is incredibly fragile. Once the rest of the followers see that even the fanatical Bellatrix Lestrange has abandoned the Dark Lord, they inevitably begin questioning their own allegiance. They're thinking, why should they stay and die for a leader who is completely unraveling? Some flee into hiding, some switch sides, and some simply drop their wands and stop fighting entirely.
So, as we approach the climax of the war, the external consequences are stark. Instead of the massive, overwhelming army unified in terror that marched on Hogwarts in canon, this alternate army is fundamentally broken. It's significantly smaller, it is deeply divided by mistrust, and it's far less confident. By bleeding out his forces from the inside, Bellatrix inadvertently gives the defenders of Hogwarts a massive tactical advantage.
But you're probably wondering, what about Bellatrix herself? Does she run from the conflict she helped create, or does she try to undo the damage she spent years causing? In this timeline, she faces a final, truly fateful choice. Perhaps she stands shoulder to shoulder with the defenders of Hogwarts. Perhaps she sacrifices her own life to protect Narcissa from Voldemort's wrath. Or maybe she even uses her intimate knowledge of dark magic to actively help destroy a Horcrux.
Now, it is absolutely vital to acknowledge something here. Redemption doesn't erase past crimes. Bellatrix would still be fully responsible for the torture, the murders, and the terrible atrocities she committed. Nothing could ever magically wash that away. But choosing to ultimately stand against Voldemort proves something profoundly important. Even the darkest, most indoctrinated people are capable of making one final choice, and sometimes that single choice is enough to change the entire course of history.
Ultimately, Voldemort was defeated by a weakness he never understood: human loyalty. In the end, Bellatrix turning on him isn't just a shocking plot twist. It becomes the exact mechanism that brings the Dark Lord down faster than the boy who lived ever could. Because Voldemort's downfall wasn't brought about purely by magic or by an ancient prophecy or by raw power. It was brought about by human loyalty, the exact thing he spent his entire miserable life trying to destroy.
Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredibly complex explainer. I just love breaking down these intricate alternate timelines with you all. Now, I want to turn it over to you. If you could change one single event in the Harry Potter story, what would it be? Let us know down in the comments, because the inspiration for our next alternate universe explainer might just come directly from your idea. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I will see you next time.